Leah was an ordinary, exhausted man. For nearly a decade, peaceful sleep had eluded him. His life felt like an endless grind that weighed heavily on his spirit, but his wife Mika and daughter Konami kept him anchored. As soon as he stepped through the door, Mika welcomed him, and he quickly inquired about Konami. Mika informed him that Konami had just dozed off, but all day she had been asking for a small dog. She had spotted it at a friend's house and couldn't shake its image from her mind. Leah hesitated, uncertain if they could afford a dog right now. Finances were tight, and they barely scraped by. Yet, gazing at his sleeping daughter, he thought, if a small dog brings her joy, it's worth the extra shifts. The following day, Leah took Konami to a pet store to find the dog. Her face beamed with happiness, while Mika looked taken aback by his decision. His job was already draining, and adding a dog to the mix would complicate things. But Leah reassured himself as long as his wife and daughter were happy, he could handle anything. He was gravely mistaken. The next day, his manager berated him for a late report, despite Leah having sent it on Thursday. The manager had been at a cabaret and missed the message. Still, he found a way to pin the blame on Leah. Every day felt like a relentless struggle. He either faced insults from a callous manager or bore the burden of careless colleagues. And if anything went wrong, the fault landed squarely on him. Navigating a field of metaphorical landmines, he forgot his troubles upon returning home to his family. That day, Leah was on the subway heading to work. A message from his friend Nita popped up, asking him to buy a newly released game for her, and Leah chuckled, knowing Nita's obsession. Being friends, he agreed to pick it up. He exited the subway and opened Google to find the store. The area felt unfamiliar. He scanned his surroundings, hoping for a clue. But what he saw shattered him. His wife Mika was leaving with a strange man. He couldn't believe his eyes. In fact, he outright refused to accept it. She was supposed to be on her way to sword training. So why was she here at this hour? He returned home and asked Mika about her day. She said she had taken Kanmi to her training session. He had planned to confront her about what he saw, but he held his tongue. He thought, I don't want to ruin my own home. He tried to convince himself he must have misinterpreted the situation. It was unthinkable that Mika would betray him, so he decided to step out for a bit. He attempted to put his computer to sleep, but it refused to cooperate. The system kept freezing, forcing him to shut it down and leave. He wandered through the city until he reached the spot where he last saw her, relieved she wasn't there. But his relief evaporated when he overheard her voice on the phone with that same man. To make matters worse, she had taken Kanmi with her. He kept telling himself, maybe he's just a friend helping her. Then he heard Kanmi calling out to that man. Leah's world crumbled. The next day at work, he struggled to comprehend what he had seen. He tried to convince himself it was all a misunderstanding, that it couldn't be true. Suddenly, his manager stormed in and yelled at him again. Why are you slacking off? Leah explained he was waiting for the device to work, but it kept malfunctioning due to security protocols. The manager ignored him, continuing to shout about why he needed breaks. At that moment, Leah received a call from Mika, who told him Kanmi had been in a serious accident and urged him to come to the hospital. He sprinted with all his might, asking frantically, "Where is Kanmi?" She replied that Kanmi had been taken into surgery. Soon after, the doctor appeared and asked, "Are you Kanmi's parents?" Both confirmed, "Yes, we are the parents of Konami." The doctor stated that one of them needed to donate blood and asked about their blood types. Leah replied, "Mine is AB positive." Mika responded, "Mine is O negative." The doctor asked Mika to go into the operating room for blood donation, leaving Leah shocked, questioning why her. The doctor clarified that Konami's blood type was O negative, making Leah's blood completely incompatible. Leah waited in the hallway, then pulled out his phone to search online, and the realization hit him. Scientifically, it was impossible for a child to have blood type O if her father had AB. The only conclusion was that she wasn't his daughter at all. Rage and despair engulfed him entirely. He confronted Mika, asking, "Is Konami really my daughter? Or what?" Instead of answering, she played the victim, saying, "I should be the one upset. You were never around. You never cared for this home." Leah insisted he work tirelessly for them, but she shouted back, "Your work means nothing. No promotions, no raises, and you can't give me the life I want." He couldn't believe his ears. Yet she continued, 10 years of marriage, and I hardly see you. Everything rests on my shoulders alone." She completely disregarded the fact that the child wasn't his. Then she declared, "You have never been part of this home, and I will take Konami and leave." Leah asked, "Where will you go?" She didn't respond, just knocked on Konami's door saying, "Come, my darling, we are leaving." Leah tried to stop her, holding on, but she shoved him away. He pleaded, "I have done everything for Konami. Don't leave me." But the final blow struck when Konami said, "I love my second father." Leah's world shattered. The next day, he went to work with a heart broken by betrayal. But the shock wasn't over. His manager called him in, accusing him of embezzling company funds. Leah denied it, of course, but the manager presented irrefutable evidence of a 50 million yen transfer from Leah's computer to an unknown account. Things spiraled further. Mika took advantage of the situation, filing for divorce and demanding child support for a child that wasn't his. To avoid jail, Leah had to agree to repay the 50 million yen and take a labor job at a construction site. He realized he might die before he could ever repay that amount. His life was in ruins. The only small solace was a message from Nita. Talking about the latest episode of Gundam, Leah was about to reply, eager to watch the episode with her, but he deleted the message. He didn't want Nita to know the devastation his life had become. He tried to stay hopeful, telling himself, maybe if I work harder, things will get better. Yet during lunch, he started coughing blood, realizing he was genuinely ill and his days were numbered. That night, he attempted to sleep, but the coughing intensified, and he couldn't afford a doctor. Leah sat on his bed waiting for death, feeling himself slowly fading. Suddenly, a brilliant light appeared above him, and a vision began to unfold. The vision revealed that the one who stole the 50 million yen was his own manager, the same man Mika had betrayed him with. It became evident that all her accusations of neglect were fabrications, and she had seen him as nothing but a financial target. Leah was struck with disbelief, unable to comprehend what he was witnessing. Suddenly, a mysterious figure appeared, saying, "Yes, all of this is true. Will you let them go unpunished?" Liam was at his breaking point, declaring, "No, they must face consequences, even if it costs me my life." The strange man seemed thrilled by Liam's fury, saying, "It's good that I came to you tonight." He still hadn't revealed his identity. Liam asked, "Who are you, and why have you come to me?" The stranger began explaining that he had taken an interest in Liam because he saw him as a good man. But Liam was not impressed, replying, "Yes, I was good indeed, and that is what led to my downfall. If I could turn back time, I would live selfishly, only thinking of myself." The strange man smiled, clearly pleased with Liam's words, saying, "That is excellent, and that is why I am here now. I have come to offer you a second chance, a chance to live another life in a completely different world. All you need to do is choose the world you wish to enter." Liam, half dead on his bed, couldn't tell if what he was seeing was real or just a dying hallucination. Yet he thought, if this is my last chance, I must choose wisely. He recalled the game he and Nita cherished, selecting a realm that mirrored that game's setting. Yet he worried he might end up as a destitute farmer on the planet's fringes. But the peculiar man told him, "I love you, so I will ensure you are born as the Count's son who governs a whole planet." For the first time, Liam felt a flicker of hope, realizing his new existence could surpass his old one. With his last breath, he signed the contract, and his essence was whisked away to a new world called Hydra. That day marked Liam's 5th birthday. His mother had organized a lavish celebration and mentioned a special surprise. She instructed him, "Follow me," then activated a light enchantment beneath her feet. Liam mimicked her. Upon entering another room, they discovered a massive cake next to a large box. Liam eagerly opened the box, revealing a cube inside. His mother clarified that it was a device to create his own mechanical character. He could customize every detail and then send the request to the factory to build his robot, capable of changing its ears, mouth, and other features a child shouldn't see. Astonished, Liam asked her, "Are you really giving a 5-year-old a robot like this?" He responded, "It's very significant to you." Suddenly his father entered, declaring, "I have a gift for you, my son." The boy inquired, "What is it?" His father replied, "I will bestow upon you all the Banfield family wealth. The entire planet will belong to you." The boy was stunned and asked, "Are you serious?" "I'm only 5 years old." His father answered, "Yes, but there's a simple condition. Once I give you the planet, your mother and I will relocate to a distant villa. All you need to do is send me a monthly allowance." The boy was oblivious to power or authority and didn't contemplate any of it. The man then presented a contract saying, "Sign here." The boy signed without glancing at a single line. After he signed, the father took the contract and said, "Very well, let us live in harmony." Then they left him alone. The young boy didn't even realize he had been easily tricked. But why didn't he pay attention to those odd details? Because his focus was solely on one thing. "I will wield my power in this world so that no one dares to harm me." He felt grateful for the opportunity granted by the strange man. Yet he was unaware that the man thrived on pain and despair. As soon as he realized the child would transition to the other world, he decided to leave him with a touch of suffering before arrival. The scene shifted back to Micah and director Liam seated in a restaurant, laughing and enjoying their time. The director confessed, "Honestly, I feel guilty for ruining Liam's life." He was a man of honor, but Micah chuckled in response. "And why should you feel guilty? He deserves it. He wasted a decade of my life." Suddenly, police stormed in, surrounding the director, stating, "You are accused of fabricating an embezzlement case, and we have video evidence." Along with testimonies from several colleagues, the director attempted to deny it, but everything was evident. As for Micah, the man she relied on was now imprisoned, leaving her to sleep on the streets, broke and without a future. The strange man stood at a distance, relishing every moment of the anguish he had caused. Only one task remained, to transfer Liam's soul to the new realm. But this time, he intended to inflict even more suffering than before. The strange man from the second world laughed a sinister laugh, eager to savor every second of Liam's agony. Even worse, the inhabitants of this realm lived extraordinarily long lives, meaning Liam would endure for centuries, not just years. Meanwhile, in another part of that world, an entire planet faced an assault from phantom pirates. The pirate captain believed he had secured victory, but suddenly his crew began to explode one by one. Amid the turmoil, a woman appeared in the air, both commanding and fearsome. She was Christiana, the first princess of the sacred kingdom of Lee, and one of the mightiest warriors in the realm. As soon as Christiana entered the fray, the pirates began to fall, and the kingdom of Lee's army pushed them back. Yet, even after the pirates chose to retreat, Christiana ordered her troops, saying, "Continue the battle. We will teach them a lesson that will be etched in history." At that very moment, Liam received his new present, his personal robot. He never anticipated it would arrive in a box that looked like a child's toy. The servant informed him, "Just touch the box and it will open by itself." Liam pressed the box, and in an elegant motion, the robot descended before him, introducing itself, "My name is Amagi, and I am at your service from now on, Your Excellency." The servant clarified, "Amagi will be your personal aide, available around the clock, though she needs weekly maintenance." Hours later, Liam relaxed as Amagi provided him a massage. The servant cautiously commented, "I must admit your appearance is not to my liking." Liam chuckled and responded, "Don't fret. I may look 5, but I carry 36 years of experience." The servant was taken aback. 36. "And yet you still seem like a mere child," Amagi interjected. "Here, the average lifespan is around 600 years, and adulthood is only recognized at 50. Liam mused, "Fantastic. A long life means more chances for adventure, and Amagi will always be by my side." However, the servant cautioned, "Be wary of getting too close to Amagi. People here have a strong dislike for AI." Liam curiously inquired, "Why is that?" The servant explained, "In the past, AI nearly wiped out humanity during the Skynet War. They enslaved humans and almost exterminated them, but heroes emerged to reclaim freedom. Those heroes established the current empire, so it's understandable that nobles here resent anything AI-related." Liam questioned, "Then why did my mother gift me a robot for my birthday?" The servant paused, then stated, "I command you to tell me the truth." The servant replied candidly, "Your parents abandoned you." Liam gasped, "Abandoned you from what?" The servant explained, "They left you with an inheritance of debts. No land, no money, just endless obligations." Liam was stunned. How could this be? The servant continued, "Your great-grandfather, Alistair, was a remarkable man, but your father failed. When he took charge, he dismantled rights, shut down factories, and vanished income, leaving you to bear the consequences." Liam reflected, "I was never meant to enjoy life. This is merely the start of my misery." And the strange man continued to bring him greater misfortunes as time dragged on. Meanwhile, on the planet Hydra, patrons in a bar discussed the new lord who had taken the form of a 5-year-old. One exclaimed, "I can't stand this place any longer. Every time a new lord appears, taxes inexplicably rise." Another responded, "There's nothing we can do now. Let's hope he's kinder than his predecessor." Back in his room, Liam sat on his bed, still trying to comprehend everything that had transpired. He wondered how the Penfield family had fallen into poverty for years, only to dump the entire burden on a child. He briefly considered, then realized they had intentionally set him up to inherit these debts. In his past life, his weaknesses were exploited, leaving him to suffer. But this time he vowed, I won't let anyone walk all over me again. This world belongs to me. He glanced at Amagi and declared, it's just the two of us. No one cares for us. Work with me and we will revive the territory. Amagi beamed, expressing her pride in serving him, as he had given her purpose. Liam felt a surge of joy. For the first time, he believed he could genuinely trust someone. Before diving into his tasks, Liam decided to set some rules and tweak Amagi's programming for safety. He stated, the first rule is, do not harm any human. Then he hesitated, thinking, actually, I don't care much about humans. Forget that. The first rule is, you must never harm Liam under any circumstances. He added, the second rule is, you must follow all my commands unless it would cause me harm. And he continued, the third rule is, protect yourself while adhering to the first two rules. With Amagi's laws established, the real work commenced. Liam proposed, why not restore the Banfield domain? Let's bring it back to its former glory. Do you have any suggestions? Amagi responded after a brief analysis. I have an idea, but keep in mind that an AI's perspective may not align with the Empire's views. Liam confessed, honestly, I don't grasp anything about this world. Amagi recommended using the education capsule, a device that can inject a decade's worth of knowledge into your brain in just 6 months. While also enhancing the body, Liam said, perfect, but who will manage the territory while I'm in the capsule? Amagi assured him, I will act as your proxy, governing the domain until your return. Brian the servant stepped in, visibly shocked. Have you completely lost it, handing over the entire domain to a machine? Liam replied coolly, Amagi won't act out unless I command her, and there's no law against this. Right? Brian forced a smile, accepting defeat. At last, the capsule was set. Before stepping in, Liam turned to Amagi and asked, do you experience emotions? Do you feel anything at all? Amagi paused, then said, I'm not sure. However, when you asked me to partner with you, the system created a feeling akin to human emotions. Liam chuckled, saying, all right, manage the domain while I study. I'll return to conquer the world. Eventually, the capsule opened, revealing Amagi waiting for him. He inquired, how long was I in the capsule? She replied, you were in a deep sleep for 2 years. Once dressed, Amagi sat down to update him on the Banfield territory, assuring him that everything was running smoothly. He expressed gratitude for her hard work, stating, I want to explore the domain firsthand. Amagi beamed, saying, I'll first show you the fleet of warships. This was the first time Liam witnessed the territory in person, not just through images or reports. What captivated him the most were the robots. He asked, can I try one? Amagi beamed, of course, I'll set up a test for you right away. Amagi explained that the suit moves on its own. He just needed to envision the movement, and it would follow. He replied, all right, I will give it a shot. He put on the suit, and as soon as he activated it, he found walking in it effortless. Excitement surged through Liam as he declared, I want to try fighting in it. Amagi surprised him, saying, don't worry, I'll arrange a training duel right away. You are commanded. Soon after, the commander of the planet's Special Defense Forces arrived, and the battle began. Amagi launched an attack at him, which he deflected, then pretended to lose the match. Liam realized he had been joking and not taking the training seriously. Frustrated, he told him, take this more seriously. Naturally, he couldn't finish the training quickly, as Amagi was right there, offering support and guidance. Facing another strike, Liam managed to grab his sword, only to be knocked down instantly. He was stunned, unable to grasp how he lost so quickly. Amagi clarified that the suit's movements depend on the user's imagination, and seasoned fighters like the commander control it flawlessly. After this embarrassment, Liam felt a wave of anger and told Brian, get me a combat instructor right now. Brian attempted to soothe him, saying, sir, there's no need to learn combat. But Liam was determined. He wouldn't accept a no. In his past life, he had been oppressed by those stronger, and he refused to live that way again. If he wanted to be a formidable lord, he had to gain strength. In a short time, Liam encountered a man named Yasushi, a master of martial arts. Liam was instantly impressed and expressed his desire to learn from him. Yasushi agreed to teach him, but Amagi felt uneasy, saying, I'm not comfortable with this. Yasushi appeared suspicious. Liam replied, I know he seems off, but he looks like a samurai, and I feel drawn to him. Amagi then advised him, very well, try it out first before relying on him. Ignoring her warning, Liam asked Yasushi for a quick demonstration. Yasushi agreed, saying, follow me to the forest. There, he set up wooden pillars and said, "Focus closely. This is a secret technique, and I won't repeat it in front of anyone." Liam told Amagi, "Make sure to record everything." Amagi started recording. Yasushi took his stance, drew part of his sword, and swiftly returned it. Suddenly, every pillar around them split cleanly in half. Liam was left in awe. "Incredible, what speed is this?" Liam was astounded by the incredible speed, far surpassing the camera's ability to capture it, leaving him even more impressed. Without hesitation, he asked Yasushi to officially take him on as a mentor. That night, Yasushi returned to the forest, chuckling to himself. Can you believe he actually fell for it? I'd prepped the pillars, standing them up just right, and when I waved my hand, they toppled. He felt satisfied now that Liam was paying him a decent salary, with no plans for any wrongdoing. Meanwhile, Princess Christiana was on her way to meet Crisneo for peace talks. However, he greeted her with anger. "You're too foolish to come here unaccompanied." Christiana shot back, "I didn't come alone, and if you try anything, the entire Alliance fleet will obliterate your ship." She attempted to showcase her power through the red eye, but Joe remained unshaken, knowing the Alliance stood with him. Suddenly, a message arrived, informing her that Krasnoyo had attacked her home planet. Christiana was taken aback, struggling to grasp how this could have occurred. Her planet was fortified and secure, yet Joe remarked, "Not all your alliances are trustworthy. Some accepted my offer and turned against you." At that moment, Christiana's crew alerted her that all Alliance ships had locked their weapons onto her vessel. She couldn't believe Joe had managed to outmaneuver her and her entire army. Christiana had no option but to comply with Liam's commands. Meanwhile, on Liam's planet, he continued his training with his mentor, Isushi. He was completely drained, yet he still hadn't mastered the flash maneuver, the dazzling technique that sent wooden objects flying. Liam inquired with Amagi about learning this technique, but as an AI, she lacked knowledge on the subject after 3 years of his basic swordsmanship training with Isushi. Boredom began to creep in due to the monotony. Amagi informed him that he had become quite proficient in the basics, showing significant improvement. Yet this meant little to him. He craved to master a flashy move that would dazzle others. In the evening, Isushi sat in his room reading manga, unable to believe his luck. He had secured a lucrative job despite being an average swindler with swords. For 3 years, he had been teaching Liam basic techniques while earning a generous salary. Liam hoped this arrangement would last a lifetime. Suddenly, Liam burst into the room, declaring his desire to learn the flash maneuver. Isushi exploded with anger, reminding him that he had promised to teach that move only once, and if Liam was unhappy, there was no reason to continue. Isushi replied, "Very well, I'll let it slide this time, but don't make the same mistake again." As soon as Liam exited, Isushi sighed in relief, fearing Liam would discover he was a fraud who didn't truly know the move. But then, Liam returned. Isushi's heart raced, thinking Liam had come to reveal the truth. In reality, Liam was just there to inform him that there would be no training the next day, due to a mission on the other side. On the other side, Princess Christiana was a prisoner of Krasneo, locked in her room. She asked him, "Do you really plan to harm me?" He didn't respond, merely insisting she watch the scene unfold from the front row. Christiana didn't grasp Joe's intentions until she laid eyes on him. He commanded all ships to target her planet with their cannons. In that instant, Christiana understood he meant to annihilate it. She sat there crying, begging him to stop, pleading, "Don't do this." But it was too late. Joe ordered his men to fire, forcing Christiana to witness her planet's destruction. Back on Liam's planet, he remained frustrated, unable to master the flash maneuver. Yet he recognized the need to concentrate on his responsibilities as a lord. He asked Amagi for the monthly report, which she provided with charts and statistics detailing the planet's economic status. Debts persisted, but production was starting to show signs of improvement. Liam felt a wave of satisfaction, knowing he had entrusted the administration to Amagi, who was diligent in her work. However, she cautioned him that growth was slower than anticipated, as a large portion of funds had been allocated to entertainment projects. Yet the outcomes didn't justify the investment of money and time. Liam requested a comprehensive report on the funds spent on the entertainment program, along with the accounting years he had reviewed before his previous demise. Finally, he received the results and immediately spotted a discrepancy. He summoned the program manager, and shortly after, a man rushed in, to which Liam calmly addressed him. "Speak now if you have something to say." The nobleman feigned ignorance, but Liam had already seen through his act. He discovered the man had been siphoning funds from the program. The nobleman had skillfully altered invoices to mask his theft, But Liam wasn't a gullible student. He had witnessed disasters before and could spot the schemes immediately. Moreover, Liam found out the nobleman had switched his suppliers. Liam inquired directly, "Why the change in suppliers?" The nobleman attempted to persuade him that the new supplier was superior, but if that were true, the program's outcomes would be much better. In essence, it was clear from head to toe that the nobleman was merely a deceitful thief. Interestingly, Liam felt no anger. He had come to this world to become a Dark Lord and knew he had to master his role. Out of the blue, Amagi informed him of a previous embezzlement case against the nobleman. Liam was shocked that the man still held his position. The nobleman insisted the case was resolved and that one of his subordinates had been blamed for the embezzlement. Liam asked Amagi if this was accurate, and she confirmed it, though there was no solid proof of the employee's guilt. To make matters worse, the nobleman had executed that man. In that moment, Liam grasped the cunning nature of the game. He charged the nobleman with fabricating charges against the unfortunate soul and murdering him to hide his own crimes. The nobleman tried to refute everything, but Liam could see the deceit in his eyes. He seized his sword and approached him steadily, as if death itself were drawing near. Realizing that deception was futile, the nobleman began to plead, saying, "My lord, everyone here does this. We aren't the only villains. All nobles steal, and this is just how it is." No sooner had he spoken than Liam drew his sword, poised to behead him, but Amagi shouted. The nobles screamed too, "You're still young. You don't understand how the world operates." Before he could finish, Liam had already severed his head with a swift stroke, his rage ignited beyond control. He immediately commanded Amagi to investigate the corruption among all the nobles and report back to him. However, Amagi calmed him, advising that he should proceed with caution first. This was Liam's first human kill, and he was so tense that he couldn't release the sword, prompting Amagi to help him loosen his grip. Amagi warned him that if he did that, no one would be left to govern the planet, as most nobles were corrupt. She proposed that he employ a number of robotic servants to manage the planet in their stead. Liam trusted her insight and approved the strategy. After a brief period, Liam returned to the training grounds. Now proficient in the basics of swordsmanship, he decided to train again with the combat suit. But just as he was about to put on the suit, Yashushi appeared and said, "Don't dream of becoming a powerful warrior while using an automated suit." Liam asked Amagi, "Is there another suit available?" She replied that there was a fully manual suit, but no one had ever managed to use it. The truth was that Yashushi had fabricated this story. He had started to worry that Liam was genuinely becoming a skilled swordsman, and if he progressed further, Yashushi's con artist days would be over. While rummaging through the royal family's storage, he stumbled upon a broken combat robot and decided to trick Liam into training on it, confident that a child like Liam could never master it. Indeed, Yashushi's scheme worked. The idea took root in Liam's mind, and he found it fascinating. Liam theorized that if he could master the manual suit, he would gain a significant edge over anyone using automated suits throughout the galaxy, and this training could greatly amplify his power. But before he could start, he needed someone to fix the robot. Brian was thrilled to see Liam so intensely focused on his training, yet he couldn't grasp why Liam wanted to begin with a manual robot that was incredibly hard to control. He was also baffled by how Liam kept striking a wooden post for days without a hint of boredom, so he asked him about it. Liam simply replied, "I'm trying to replicate the secret technique Yashushi is teaching me, and I won't stop until I master it, even if it takes years." Brian couldn't believe such a technique existed, but he realized that trying to convince Liam it was a trick would be futile. That night, Amagi went to the loading area to prepare her request. For even though she thought Yashushi's advice was unnecessary, she remained dedicated to her responsibilities. The issue was that Amagi wasn't qualified to repair the robot herself, so the next day they called in a specialist named Nias. When Liam and Amagi reached the port, Nias began acting oddly toward Amagi, while Liam expected someone from the Empire to feel uneasy about the robot. Yet the opposite was true. Nias displayed excessive enthusiasm and keen interest in the electronic devices. Liam asked Nias to fix the robot, and she candidly told him it was completely broken and that purchasing a newer model would be far more beneficial. Eventually, she gave in to his persistent requests to fix it, despite the fact that replacement parts for that model were no longer available and the expense would be steep. Liam, on the other hand, didn't hesitate to pay for it. Before any repairs commenced, Liam pushed for an offensive upgrade to the robot, envisioning a powerful move akin to a rocket punch where the arm would shoot out to hit foes. However, he took Nias's advice to heart when she pointed out the impracticality, as the engines would need vast space and losing the arm in battle could be perilous. Ultimately, they settled on a sensible modification. While others praised the brilliance of robots, Yasushi lingered at a distance, unable to accept that Nias held Liam in higher regard than him. Maybe it was because Liam had a genuinely likable personality. Unlike the envious loser watching from afar, Yasushi resolved to put Liam through grueling training. He made Liam balance on a tree trunk in the lake while bombarding him with flying spheres, pretending to hone his reflexes for incoming attacks without direct sight, though it was all just empty theatrics. Meanwhile, on a different planet, Christiana found herself imprisoned with her crew after Joe had kidnapped them, struggling to grasp the complex situation unfolding across multiple locations. Joe reveled in humiliating Christiana. When she inquired about his intentions, he grinned maliciously and declared, "I will take you to my planet, my prized possession, and you will join my collection." Christiana suspected he was scheming something vile, but upon reaching the lab, she realized the reality was far more horrifying. In that instant, she wished it were merely a matter of insolence, but a horrific scene unfolded before her. One of her colleagues had been grotesquely transformed due to the experiments conducted by a deranged scientist under Joe's orders. Joe commanded the scientist, "Take Christiana." "I want you to proceed as usual." Christiana quaked in fear. Having witnessed the grim fate that awaited her, Joe had a multitude of dark experiments planned for her. His initial scheme involved gouging out her eye with his hand, then placing it in her palm. Why? So she could witness her own body contorting and shattering, just as he had done to others. She was on the brink of facing the most terrifying nightmare of her existence. Meanwhile, on Liam's planet, things were thriving. Under Liam's leadership, the economy had seen remarkable improvement, and people were experiencing a happiness they had never dreamed of. Everyone was eager to see what Liam would do next to propel the planet forward. Yet, unbeknownst to anyone, Liam had siphoned a significant chunk of the planet's budget to fix his manual robot. At last, Nias finished the repairs, restoring the robot to a factory-fresh state. She felt a sense of pride in her work and was excited to teach Liam how to operate it. The cockpit inside the robot had been slightly enlarged for added comfort. Once Liam was securely inside, Nias powered up the engine. It roared to life instantly, scanning to register Liam as the official pilot, ensuring no one else could control it. Liam was incredibly eager to test the robot, but as soon as he grabbed the control unit, he tumbled forward. He had forgotten that this robot lacked an automatic balance feature, requiring manual adjustments for each step. For an average person, controlling it would have been impossible. Yet Liam had trained specifically for this moment, managing to correct his stance and rise again. He stepped out of the loading area, drawing the admiration of onlookers. For a first attempt, his control of the robot was nothing short of impressive. Nias explained that creativity was essential for operating this type of robot. The clearer the vision in his mind, the more accurate the robot's movements became. Soon after, Liam returned to sword training, trying once more to execute the flash technique by slicing the wooden post from a distance, just as he always aimed to do. But despite his efforts, he couldn't achieve success. Doubt began to seep into his heart. Maybe I lacked the talent for swordsmanship I once thought I had. Amagi approached him and remarked, "The issue isn't you or your talent. The problem lies with Yasushi and his nonsensical teaching, along with your blind trust in him." But Liam misinterpreted the word trust. He believed she meant he didn't have enough faith in his teacher. He was completely convinced that Yasushi would never deceive him or make a mistake. Thus, he arrived at a peculiar conclusion. "The issue is that I don't grasp the master's lessons well enough." Suddenly, he recalled that this world was infused with magic. He told himself, "All right, I will combine magic with my strike instead of relying solely on my strength." And with that, Liam made a significant leap in his training. From that moment forward, Liam dedicated countless months to mastering the fusion of swordplay and magic, eagerly awaiting the day of reckoning. He called out to Yasushi saying, "Master, come witness my progress." Inside, Yasushi feared Liam would let him down once again. But as Liam unsheathed his sword, a magical surge erupted, cleaving the wooden post in two from a distance. Yasushi could hardly believe his eyes. He quickly donned a facade of wisdom, stating, "Well done, my pupil, yet there remains much for you to learn before mastering this technique." After witnessing Liam's feat, Yasushi's face transformed, shock and dread flooding his heart. This boy is extraordinary. I've deceived him all these years, yet he has accomplished the unthinkable until a dire message reached him. One of the planets providing him resources was under siege by pirates. It was the sole planet the Empire overlooked when seizing the Benfield family's assets due to financial troubles. Its land was of poor quality, making mineral extraction a daunting task. They simply declared, "We have no use for it." However, Amagi proved resourceful, managing to revive some factories, generating extra income for Liam. Now, the pirates aimed to take control of those factories. The Benfield forces stationed there were putting up a fight. Yet, it was evident that their defeat was merely a matter of time. Liam inquired, "Amagi, do you have a strategy for the assault?" She replied, "Yes, we will infiltrate through an unexpected blind spot and catch them off guard." Liam appreciated the plan and ordered his army to keep the Carashians occupied in orbit while he descended to protect the planet. Brian tried to protest, "My lord, it's too perilous for you to go in person." But Liam insisted, "No one will ever rob me again." And besides, he wanted to showcase his newly acquired skills. Indeed, Liam arrived with his battalion, and Amagi had readied a colossal cannon housing Liam's robot. Once the cannon was primed, they fired it toward the planet's surface. The Carashians were finishing off the factory protection army when suddenly one of their ships erupted. They looked around, spotting Liam plummeting from the sky, his sword slicing through one of them in an instant. The Carashians began to scatter, attempting to encircle him. But Liam utilized the training he received from the tennis balls Yasushi had hurled at him. He sensed their movements without sight and struck down those approaching from behind before they could reach him. Then a group of Carashians opened fire with lasers. Liam remarked, "Very well, I can fire lasers too." He set his sword aside, summoned a massive laser cannon, and began to clear the battlefield. The Carashians were in a frenzy. This is no ordinary human. This is a specter. They attempted a collective attack, but they foolishly lined up. Liam declared, "It's time to reveal my true secret." He unsheathed his sword, and a wave sliced through half the enemy forces. The remaining soldiers collapsed in fear, screaming, "No, no, we can't withstand him!" Those who managed to escape fled in a panic, but Liam had no intention of letting them go. He raised his hand and unleashed the rocket punch. However, instead of his arm detaching and flying toward them, he conjured a nuclear fist that obliterated everyone on the battlefield. Liam frowned, saying angrily, "This isn't what I commanded. Nias, I requested a rocket fist, not a nuclear bomb, woman." At that moment, he received a call from a magi who regretfully informed him that she had managed to destroy 30% of the pirate fleet, seize another 30% of their ships to form a new army, while the remaining 40% had fled to Murad. Liam smiled and replied calmly, "You've done an outstanding job, Magi." Meanwhile, Joe learned that the pirates he dispatched to Penfield's resource planet had failed their mission, and his fury was so intense that he nearly ripped his clothes apart. Reports indicated that the squad had underestimated the strength of the Penfield army and had to retreat to avoid total destruction. While this explanation seemed plausible to others, Joe was not willing to let it go. He resolved to take revenge on every single pirate who had returned and fled, for he would not tolerate cowardice among his ranks. Those who feared deserved no life. Once he dealt with them all, he planned to undertake the mission himself. Meanwhile, Leon and his legendary team were returning from the battle. Thrilled with the outcome, they not only succeeded in safeguarding the resource planet, but also captured several pirate vessels. Under Imperial regulations, anything taken from a pirate vessel, including the ship and its cargo, rightfully belonged to the captor, especially since those ships were laden with stolen riches. The moment Leon heard the word treasures, his thoughts raced to gold and silver, but Brian quickly corrected him, saying what they had was far more precious. After examining the ships, Amji announced they had found rare metals like orcolum and adamantite. Leon barely listened. Those metals were mainly for crafting weapons, while he envisioned something more like a crown adorned with diamonds. Brian couldn't grasp Leon's disappointment, as in this world, diamonds were just shiny rocks, while orcolum and adamantite held far greater worth. Still, Leon remained indifferent. He craved something that would make him feel affluent. When Brian mentioned there was also gold on the ships, Leon celebrated and ordered him to mint a large number of gold coins. Brian inquired if he wanted coins made from the other metals as well, but Leon declined. He wasn't foolish enough to waste them. He planned to use them for crafting weapons for the army. At that moment, Amji highlighted a significant issue. They lacked a skilled blacksmith to depend on. Moreover, the Penfield army had around 10,000 ships, but most were found to be inoperable. When the order to mobilize against the pirates was issued, only 30% of the fleet was ready to launch and engage in battle. AMG was shocked they had even won, considering only 30% of the fleet was functional. Yet they triumphed because the pirates had underestimated their capabilities. The rest of the empire viewed Penfield as impoverished, believing the attack would be a walk in the park. If not for Leon's outstanding leadership, the outcome could have been disastrous. However, had the pirates opted for a full-scale attack, Penfield would have stood no chance. Despite everything, Leon felt dissatisfied. Over 70% of the ships had sustained damage. Then, AMG suggested a plan to dispose of the completely wrecked ships. Brian immediately disagreed, arguing that getting rid of those ships would lower the Army's status and make them seem like easy targets. That was true, but fixing the ships would require a fortune, and Leon was unwilling to spend it. The Army managed to acquire new ships to replace those being discarded, and selling the valuable metals from the Kharasin would provide ample funds. Nias felt immense pride in her new ship design, having successfully improved its efficiency by 7%, enhancing its responsiveness and ease of maintenance. She assured that if the Army adopted her design, their fleet would become significantly more powerful. Next up was Ulycia. Representing the third weapons factory, she unveiled a lavish ship design, reminiscent of a luxury cruise liner. Its interior and exterior resembled a five-star hotel, complete with all the amenities, a bar, theater, cinema, and even an indoor golf course. Nias's ship, while combat-ready, lacked these luxuries, leading the Imperial Army to favor Ulycia's design. Nias countered, asserting her ship was far superior as it concentrated all resources on enhancing combat effectiveness. Ulycia retorted, claiming her ship's battle power was not inferior, emphasizing that strength depended not just on weaponry, but also on the crew operating the vessel. A well-rested crew, comfortable after a long day, would be prepared to fight with full energy. After her presentation, Ulycia left, elated and triumphant at the Army's choice of her design over Nias's. Yet Nias warned her that the competition wasn't finished. She may have lost this round, but she would demonstrate her design's superiority in actual combat. The issue was that Nias had exhausted her entire budget. If she couldn't find a buyer for the ships the Army had rejected, bankruptcy awaited her. While contemplating this, an idea struck her. She remembered someone crazy enough to buy them. This man was Leon, who had previously offered a fortune to repair an old robot. Surely he could afford to purchase the unwanted ships. Meanwhile, the mentor entertained himself with pranks, relishing the discomfort of others. Yet what he observed now paled in comparison to the true suffering Leon had faced. The last time he encountered him, the New World had sent him to Zabala, where debts were piled upon him before they fled. His planet was supposed to have been obliterated and erased from existence. Yet, to his surprise, it had flourished, with life thriving in the best possible manner. The guide was deeply confused, yet he still held on to his final card. Previously, when Leon sought a sword instructor, the guide had sent him a fraud named Yasushi, a man who couldn't even hold a sword properly. There had been no genuine way for Leon to learn anything from him. Inside the tavern, locals chatted about the thriving economy under Leon's leadership, celebrating the happiness his governance had brought. Yasushi, however, sat in solitude, feeling both depressed and irritated with Leon. He was aware of his own deceitful nature in how he had attempted to orchestrate Leon's demise through impossible tasks. Surprisingly, Leon had actually acquired skills that even Yasushi had never encountered. The guide, upon hearing this, was taken aback. He consented to AMG's proposal, but only to ease Brian's worries. She informed him of their plans, prompting him to decide to observe Leon firsthand. There, he discovered Leon in the midst of training, effortlessly splitting wooden targets without any contact. The guide was astonished. He was certain he had never granted Leon any supernatural abilities. How could he achieve all this solely through his own determination and effort? The guide simply couldn't fathom how everything in Leon's life was unfolding so favorably. Even more bizarre was that Leon himself had never anticipated such luck. At just 5 years old, he had been left alone while his family drowned in debt, a situation that should have shattered anyone. Yet, against all odds, everything turned out perfectly. The economy in his region was on the rise. Leon was living the dream, all thanks to the guide. The positivity emanating from Leon made the guide feel bitter. Unable to tolerate it any longer, he returned to feed off Yasushi's negativity to calm himself, plotting a new scheme to ruin Leon. Leon was at his peak, and the guide wanted to topple him. That would truly bring the guide satisfaction. At that moment, Leon was discussing the ships with Amji, inquiring if she had found anything useful. Amji informed him that the Imperial Army was upgrading its fleet and selling off older ships at a low price. Though outdated, Imperial vessels were still superior to anything else available. Leon immediately agreed, but there was a stipulation. If he bought the ships, he had to keep their old crew as is. Essentially, the Empire was offloading unwanted personnel onto Leon, and hiring those soldiers would surely be costly. However, Amji believed their budget could manage the costs, especially since many crew members from the Imperial fleet had significant experience. Their presence would bolster Leon's army, and upon hearing this, he embraced the idea and agreed to the deal. The guide had been eavesdropping, viewing this as a prime opportunity to sabotage Leon. He decided to play his cards right and send a group of very serious individuals. Among the soldiers dispatched to Leon were some fiercely loyal ones, and he was confident that Leon, who called himself the Evil Lord, would be exposed to them, leading to their betrayal. Meanwhile, Yasushi sat at home, nursing a throbbing headache from drinking, unable to grasp how his life had spiraled to this point. Suddenly, he heard Nias's voice, prompting him to rise and resume his role as the Wukor teacher. Initially, Nias had her doubts, but after witnessing her improvement under his guidance, she became convinced he was a formidable master. Yasushi was taken aback by her solo visit. He thought there might be an opportunity with her, but she only came to ask a few questions about Leon. She and Mez wanted to know how to persuade Leon to consider their marketing proposal without appearing unfavorable, so she indirectly asked Yasushi how to ensure a man's favorable impression. Naturally, Yasushi misinterpreted her intentions, thinking she was trying to seduce him, fearing she might view him as close to death. Yet Nias persisted, genuinely needing to know how to win Leon over. Seeing her determination, he opened up and shared all his wild fantasies. His thoughts were a tangled mess, leaving Nias speechless in shock, and Yasushi began to worry he had revealed too much. Oddly enough, she sincerely thanked him for his insights. A few hours later, she arrived at Leon's palace, hoping to charm him into purchasing her ships. Leon could be kind-hearted, but he wasn't naive. He quickly realized she was attempting to sell him something. She candidly expressed her desire for him to buy the new warship model she had designed, but he declined without hearing her out. He mentioned he had already acquired used ships from the army and asked what advantages her new ships offered. She attempted to persuade him with figures and data, assuring him of their robust design. But despite her confidence, she had never sold them to the army, having failed at a previous exhibition. She replied that she could help secure a loan if needed. He responded, "Enough with the talk. I can't bear the thought of debts again." Nias started feeling anxious about his actions, attempting to appeal to him emotionally, but he recognized that Yasushi wasn't that kind of person. Her position seemed to shatter her heart, so to break the awkward silence, he consented to buy some ships. He inquired with Amagi about the budget, and she confirmed they could acquire roughly 300 ships. Overjoyed, Nias promised to dispatch the ships right away, energizing her team with the command to prepare 300 ships for sale. The coordinator was taken aback upon discovering she had already secured a buyer for the vessels. She confidently declared that her exceptional design was the reason. After several hours, the new ships reached their buyer, and upon arrival, Liam and Amagi boarded one to evaluate it. Liam was satisfied with the latest models and quickly grasped why the Empire opted for different designs. The ship lacked any luxury features. Nias defended her design, arguing that comfort was unnecessary in battle, which was true, but humans valued comfort too. To finalize the deal, Nias asked for Liam's signature on the delivery receipt, but she had another request. She wondered if she could acquire some of the Corsair ships he had recently captured, but he immediately declined, stating he planned to incorporate them into his fleet. They attempted to convince him, but he stood his ground. Nias suggested a compromise. They could give her one ship if she modified the remaining Corsair vessels to fit Liam's system, as their technology was foreign and needed adaptation. He quickly agreed, realizing the modifications would be far cheaper than extracting technical details from the foreign tech. When Liam inquired about the situation, Nias proposed they check out one of the Corsair ships. The three of them went together, and the ship's design was unlike anything Liam had ever seen. The team reacted with excitement, calling the ship a technological marvel, brimming with ideas and tech to replicate, and Liam was thrilled, especially when he spotted a huge steering wheel in the control room. He admired it and requested one for his ship, but she informed him that while it looked stunning, it was less efficient than the digital panel, and using the screen was much quicker and simpler. Liam wasn't concerned with the ship's aesthetics. To him, it was just a tool. Meanwhile, Neas wandered its halls in awe, increasingly amazed by the advanced technology it housed. She exclaimed in wonder about the gravity laser system's incredible range, the inverted generators, and the astonishing installation of the 6 GTI engines. Unable to contain her excitement, she rushed back to analyze all the data available. During her exploration, Liam spotted something resembling a dog in a corner. He approached to investigate, and for a moment, it acted oddly. Amagi asked him, "Are you okay, my son?" He replied, "I thought I saw a dog or cat here, but it vanished suddenly." It became evident that it had slipped through a specific door, so they proceeded to the room it had entered, discovering it was the ship's navigation or sonar system room. Amagi activated the system, explaining that this room recorded all the ship's journeys, and she had previously used it for mapping. The data revealed that the Corsairs had been capturing planets throughout the entire Drain Empire, which was anticipated. After examining the data, Amagi noticed a peculiar pattern. Each time the Corsairs executed a raid, they returned to the Empire through the transit gate, then made a small jump to the borders. This area had been a battleground for years between the Empire and other factions, making it hard to monitor and an ideal hideout for the Corsairs. Liam requested the coordinates for the small jump, but she informed him they changed every time the Corsairs returned from a raid. Amagi began analyzing the coordinates she had gathered, charting the ship's path, and found it led to a small wandering planet deep in space, following an erratic course, making it nearly impossible to reach without prior knowledge of its location. Amagi speculated that this could be the Corsairs' hidden base, but he confidently replied, No, I've seen plenty of Corsair movies. This planet is definitely a treasure island, where they stash all their loot." After collecting the necessary intel, Liam asked her, "What are your plans now?" She answered without hesitation, "We will assault the planet." At that moment, the Corsairs returned from the stars, gearing up for battle against Liam. Their leader, Joe, was on the brink of exploding with rage, yelling at his men, "How could a weak noble mock us and turn us into a joke before the entire galaxy? He must not be allowed to live." Then he commanded all his men to prepare for combat, adding to target the entire Benfield region. But first, he wanted to teach the Corsairs who had disappointed him a lesson they would never forget, so he locked them in a capsule and detonated it in front of everyone. Liam quickly returned with his fleet to assault the treasure planet. However, to reach it, they needed to pass through the Domus Gate, which was supposed to transport them to the Balmanea Gate, from where they would continue their journey. They requested passage authorization, but it was denied. Liam inquired about the reason, and Neas explained, "Our request was rejected because we didn't pay the transit fee." Suddenly, they received a call from a gate employee addressing Liam directly. "Sir, the fee is calculated based on the fleet's weight and the distance it will travel. And since you plan to move the entire fleet, the cost becomes exceedingly high." Liam replied, "Very well, I will pay, but I don't have money on me right now. I will settle it when I return." The employee responded coldly, "No, sir, that's not possible. House Benfield's account at the bank is empty. Even the quick loan services want nothing to do with you." Liam understood that he needed to pay the fee up front or find someone reliable to back him. Only then could the process move forward. Sadly, no one trusted House Benfield. Liam stated, "I'll pay you when I get back." The employee shot back, "There's no guarantee you'll return." Liam could have gone home for the money, but that would waste a lot of fuel and time. So he demanded, "Get your manager. I need to speak with him." The employee replied that he was the manager. Liam responded, "Fine, I'll come in person." Amagi looked at him asking, "Are you certain? If the manager is comfortable on the phone, he won't agree to meet." Liam replied confidently, "Don't worry, even if he sees me. I possess exceptional negotiation skills. He'll come around." Meanwhile, Joe reached the Balmanea Gate with his fleet, ready to head to the Domus Gate and obliterate the Benfield region. His fleet halted at the edge, and Joe contacted the employee, offering bribes to avoid too many questions. Meanwhile, Liam stood at the Domus Gate counter, trying to persuade the manager to let his ships through. But the manager remained firm. "No payment, no passage. Rules are rules, and I can't change them for you." Suddenly, a message arrived from the Balmanea Gate, alerting him that Joe and the Corsair fleet were on their way. The manager glanced up, coldly stating, "I have more pressing matters to attend to." And he left Liam standing there in the reception area. Liam couldn't believe his negotiation skills had failed him. He muttered to himself while following the spirit of the dog he had seen earlier. It led him into the room the dog had entered, revealing it to be the ship and gate control room. Inside, the manager and Farouk confirmed that the connection between the Domus and Balmania gates was fully operational, meaning Joe would arrive in exactly 30 minutes. One employee asked, "Are we sure about this?" "This means Joe's fleet will reach the waiting area before Liam's." It was known that Joe wouldn't wait a moment and would attack as soon as he arrived. While the manager remained anxious, unable to foresee the outcome, he ordered a break, knowing they needed to be present for the critical moment. Coincidentally, after everyone left the control room, Liam followed the spirit of the dog and found the room empty. He approached the screen and saw that the gate was indeed open and linked to Balmania. He thought to himself, "My God, it seems the manager's heart softened and opened the way for me for free." But upon closer inspection, he realized the direction of the Dodi market was incorrect. So he concluded, a minor error by the manager. "I'll fix it myself." He began adjusting the controls, attempting to reverse the gate's direction. After several tries, he succeeded, but the adjustment caused an unexpected distortion in the gate. As a result, anyone inside the Dodi market would emerge in a completely random location. He accepted the gate modification despite the distortion, knowing it would lead to random exits. But since Liam was unaware of anyone being inside, he thought, it doesn't matter. Suddenly, he received a call from a magi saying, "Hurry back to the ship. I found someone to back us." Liam was shocked to discover who it was. Upon his return, he realized it was Nice, who felt compelled to help after he had saved her when he bought her ships and left her some Corsair vessels. Liam expressed his gratitude, saying, "Great, I've prepared the gate ahead of time. Let's move." Indeed, the fleet began to advance. After half an hour, they reached Balmania. Only a short jump remained to reach the wandering planet and commence the mission. Meanwhile, Joe remained trapped inside the Dodi market, oblivious to Liam's trick. After a long time, he started to suspect something was off. Suddenly, the crew alerted him, "Boss, we're nearing the gate exit." Joe grinned, finally, but as they exited, he was stunned to find his fleet in the Imperial Fleet training area, surrounded by over 100,000 ships, a disaster waiting to happen. No one inquired about them. At the same time, Liam arrived at the planet and commanded everyone to prepare for an immediate attack. Around 20,000 Corsair vessels loomed, outnumbering Liam's fleet by more than 3 times, yet most remained idle and unready. The sudden onslaught quickly decimated them. A few ships tried to retaliate. Liam activated his robot and positioned himself on a colossal weapon aboard his vessel, instructing Magi to strike at the battle's core. He charged into the fray, taking down Corsairs one after another until all resistance faded into silence. Noticing the battle nearing its conclusion, he commanded his forces to mop up the remaining enemies while he sought the treasure himself. He ventured into the planet's core, encountering Corsairs and swiftly eliminating them. Upon reaching his team's captain, he discovered the mission had been accomplished without him. The captain informed him that they had also dealt with the Corsairs in their vicinity. Liam ordered everyone to finish clearing the area while he moved to find the treasure chamber. Suddenly, he spotted the glowing dog again and chose to follow it. This choice proved wise, leading him to the control room where the scientist and his men surrendered without hesitation. Liam felt satisfaction at the plan's success and inquired about the treasure's whereabouts. The scientist asked, "Which type of treasure should I address first?" It included highly valuable items and pets collected by Joe. Liam speculated that the dog he had seen might be one of those creatures. He probed further about the animals, and the sadistic scientist who relished turning humans into pets began showcasing his training techniques. Liam couldn't comprehend a single word of his explanation. He dragged himself into the lab, where he saw girls transformed into horrific monsters due to the scientist's experiments. Nias continued to observe the unfolding situation. His gaze fell on one of them. The scientist remarked, "Your eyes are sharp. This is Captain Joe's favorite, and I will begin to ramble about it as my artistic masterpiece. And I take pride in it." Liam's expression twisted as he recalled his dark past, unable to bear witnessing such cruelty. He drew his weapon and shot the scientist in the head. And if you don't recall who she was, let me remind you, she was Christiana. Afterward, Liam began to survey the area when he suddenly heard a voice asking him, "Who are you?" Liam responded, "I am Liam. I've taken control of this planet and eliminated its former ruler." Tears filled the girl's eyes as she said her suffering would finally end. She pleaded for him to end her pain and that of the others. knowing they could never return to normal. He assured her, "I will help you. It's straightforward. In return, you will owe me a favor later." He exited while instructing the soldiers to bring doctors and transport the girls to the ship for care. The girl continued to scream, begging him to end her life, fully aware she was beyond saving. The captain attempted to soothe her, but he couldn't defy Liam's orders. He tried to persuade Liam to reconsider, explaining that the treatment was incredibly complex, requiring full-body reconstruction, rare materials, and highly skilled doctors, deeming it not worth the effort. But Liam countered, "I'm in a good mood, and doing something good now and then wouldn't hurt." At that moment, he received a message from Image, informing him they had located the real treasure room. Liam was thrilled and said, "Great, now we can fund the girl's treatment." Returning to the present, Liam went back to his planet, where Neas came to visit. She already knew he had triumphed over the pirate base and suggested he purchase additional warships to celebrate. Liam replied, "Enough with the scamming. You're just robbing me." But Neas insisted her ships had proven valuable, and since he had profited from the attack, he needed to invest wisely. She attempted to seduce him again, but Liam was not in the mood and had no intention of falling for her tricks. He told her, "Be quiet." When seduction and threats failed, Neas reminded him that she had secured his authorization to enter the space gate, prompting him to agree to her request. He asked Image, "With our current treasure, how many ships can we acquire?" Image responded, "After accounting for essential expenses, we can purchase around 5,000 ships." Liam was taken aback, but Neas quickly rushed forward, exclaiming, "Perfect, I'll place an order for 5,000 ships." Liam chased after her, trying to stop this madness from becoming a reality. Meanwhile, Yasushi wandered through the corridors. He was brainstorming a new scheme to extract money from Liam when he happened to see Neas passing by, talking on the phone, claiming she had requested a massive order after being humiliated and exhausted, as usual. Yasushi assumed Liam was treating it like a game, and from that anger he felt an unexpected thrill, something the mentor had been waiting for, hoping he would drown in negative emotions. At that moment, he was still searching for Neas, but Yasushi found her first, saying, "Follow me," and led her to the training grounds. He shielded his eyes, pressing down on his sword to engage in a grueling form of training. This time, Yasushi unleashed a swarm of drones, launching tennis balls at Liam from every angle faster than ever. Liam couldn't react quickly enough to defend himself, getting hit repeatedly on the head. Yasushi ramped up the intensity, sending Liam crashing to the ground. Liam yelled, "I can't fend off all these blows with just one sword." Yasushi coldly responded, "Stop making excuses. You need to figure this out on your own." Those words sparked an idea in Liam's mind. He resolved to use magic again, but this time for defense. The magic morphed into a barrier, successfully deflecting all the tennis balls away. Yasushi stood in disbelief before Liam, then redirected the balls at the drones, obliterating them with one strike. Afterward, Liam uncovered his eyes and shot a sharp look at Yasushi. "That's more like it, Yasushi," he remarked. Yasushi's tense expression began to twist with anxiety and illusions. He was a genius and would soon uncover the truth. If discovered, his corrupt officers would eliminate the legends he had vanquished among the Corsairs and erase him from history. He chose to escape before Liam grasped the full extent of the game. Liam inquired, "Where are you headed?" Yasushi replied, "I've taught you everything I know. There's nothing left to discuss. You must now train in your own manner. The sword's journey is infinite, my son." Liam shouted, "I'm not finished yet. I still require training." Yasushi snapped back, "Stop coddling me. I'm still learning too, and my journey is long. Clinging to me will only hinder my progress." Then he turned to Liam with seriousness and stated, "Consider this official. You have graduated. You are now a master of the sword, and it's your duty to spread the blink technique across the galaxy." Liam smiled and replied, "Very well, I will do it." As soon as Yasushi turned, he shot away at full speed. Liam had never experienced such fulfillment in his life. His debts were lighter, his lands thrived, he had defeated some Corsairs, and his mentor's acknowledgement filled him with pride. He looked up at the sky and said, "Thank you, mentor, for everything." However, sensing the overwhelming wave of positive energy radiating from Liam, the mentor feared he might collapse and fled before the energy could engulf him. Liam now faced a fresh challenge. He had come to this world intent on becoming a villainous leader, yet since his arrival he hadn't committed a single act of wickedness. To truly cement his malevolent reign, he needed to focus on three essentials: power, wealth, and women, the classic villain cliches. He already had power partially secured. He was a master swordsman supported by a formidable armed fleet and destructive robots. This left him with the need for wealth and women. Liam received an invitation from businessmen of a notable company to meet him. Sir Thomas accompanied him, carrying a shipment of great value. Liam greeted him, saying, "Bravo, you've defeated the Corsairs," then got straight to the point. "Let's see the shipment." Thomas unveiled the cargo of gold, which piqued Liam's interest. But he quickly recalled that gold in this world was nearly worthless, akin to copper, primarily used in tech, making its actual worth almost negligible. Thomas asked Liam for a favor, explaining that trading in space was incredibly challenging. Due to the Corsair threat, he requested some ships from Liam's fleet to safeguard his shipments. Amaji informed him that the soldiers were prepared and awaiting his commands, and these missions would provide them with valuable experience. Liam agreed, provided he received a larger quantity of gold in return. Thomas readily accepted. Upon returning from the meeting, they observed that Fifth Field Province was thriving remarkably, despite Liam's youth and limited leadership experience, a rare feat for any ruler. The people didn't grasp why he valued gold, but it didn't concern them. He was selling it to a scrap dealer. Liam was pleased, and to heighten their confusion, he hugged the gold and kissed it. This bewildered the servant. Liam explained, gold symbolizes prestige and power, and asked Amaji to use it to construct a massive swimming pool. The servant understood and commented, "Yes, that's right, and gold is pure, clean, and hypoallergenic." Liam replied, "That's not exactly the reason." Yet he felt joy, as he had received his first bribe in life, marking the start of his journey to wealth. With power and wealth secured, the last piece was women. Liam longed for a human experience, having faced betrayal in his past life. He opted out of conventional offers, choosing to marry a woman already taken as a personal test. He ventured into the streets to seek women, unfamiliar with his own cities and the culture of his people, after never leaving the palace. He spotted a stunning girl dressed to impress and approached her, asking if she would join him. She quickly agreed, but then a pink substance resembling a balloon suddenly appeared from her nose. Liam was taken aback, as was Ak, upon noticing that everyone around sported the same balloon protruding from their noses. It turned out this was the latest trend in his kingdom: nasal balloons, a cute and fashionable accessory among women. However, the girl's father was enraged and concealed it. Amaji told him that if she didn't want to wear it, she could simply remove it. Liam shouted that wearing such nonsense was prohibited and promptly issued a royal edict banning the balloon trend for good. He felt unsettled by the customs of his world. He had anticipated something akin to the sci-fi movies he adored, but instead, he faced this absurd balloon craze. Determined to transform his nation's culture, he called for the best designers and experts from across the empire. Yet, Amaji informed him that this was unfeasible due to the exorbitant costs of summoning top-tier designers. She remarked that they would need to sell the entire planet. He responded, "No need to sell the whole planet. Just bring me the most beautiful women in the empire. I will paint my vision onto them." She replied, "But sir, the most beautiful women already serve here in the palace." Liam paused, grasping the seriousness of the situation. However, he felt it was unethical to take palace staff as his concubines. Amaji reassured him, saying, "There's no issue. No law prohibits this. Anyone who chooses to work in the palace knows what they are signing up for. In fact, it's seen as a significant promotion." Liam told her, "I love you for no particular reason." She asked, "I've been acting this way from the start." "For what reason?" Liam replied. "Initially, I intended to play the role of the Wicked Lord and conceal my true emotions. But things got a bit chaotic. I felt overwhelmed and realized how tiring it is to be an evil lord. Now, all I want is to allocate funds for essential matters. The rest can wait." Meanwhile, we spotted Christiana lying in the treatment tube. She gazed at her hands and remarked, "I can see my hands now. I thought I had never seen them before." The doctor entered and said, "We have restored your body to its original form using regenerative treatment." Christiana could hardly believe it. She murmured, "My body can't be like this. This feels like a beautiful dream. I must be dreaming." The doctor gently replied, "No, my dear, this is not a dream. We utilized a legendary substance similar to the elixir of life." Yet Christiana remained skeptical. "Why would anyone do this for me? I've lost everything. My job, my family, even myself." The doctor reassured her, "No one asked you to pay anything. Everyone who underwent this treatment did so at the request of the legendary Lord Benfield. However, the Lord asked for a simple favor in return. Christiana realized that the boy who had rescued her years ago was the same one standing beside her now. She vowed to repay his kindness, no matter the cost. Later, they visited a local bar where an old patron entered, ordering his usual drink and offering a round for the staff. The waitress, taken aback by his generosity, greeted him warmly. "Welcome," the man said. "I've become a manager, and I care deeply for my staff. Anyone wishing to work in the market is welcome." The waitress replied, "No one is available. Everyone is short-staffed," the man explained. The emperor defeated the Corsair army and used their riches to develop the city. The people celebrated the determination and progress, while the old man quietly yearned for a moment of peace. The waitress commented, "Sir, you specifically came here for this." In the shadows, the mentor listened, his anger and tension palpable. He had always thought this land deserved to be in ruins and indebted. Now, witnessing Lord Benfield's success, he began to suspect something was off. Meanwhile, Commander Liam Aeneas led the legendary fleet, praising Liam as the true brave prince, grateful for the chance to serve. Even the mentor listened closely, anticipating when these men might betray him. Yet, they all pledged unwavering loyalty to Liam, making the mentor realize something was indeed wrong. Next, we find Yasushi, relishing his reward from Liam. However, seeing Liam on the screen, honoring him and his master for mastering the flash strike, fear seized him. "I need to get out of here," he thought, which only fueled the mentor's rage, expecting this man to be destitute by now. The spirit of Joe's fleet finally felt as if it had escaped death. Joe inquired about the remaining ships, and his deputy responded, "We still have 30,000 ships, but the 2,000 we used as bait were consumed by the Empire's forces." Joe was indifferent, viewing them as prisoners of war. Sacrifices were necessary. Joe pondered, how did we manage to escape? And how did we end up in the Empire fleet's training zone? It was evident their destination was Benfield territory. The deputy suggested they escape through a gate known as DOS Gate, but the settings were likely incorrect. Fury surged through Joe as he declared, "I will teach those lords a lesson they won't forget for betraying me." At that moment, a guide appeared and asked, "Are you sure your anger is aimed at the right person?" Joe jumped, asking, "Who are you?" The guide replied, "My name is... Do you recall who you were meant to fight?" The guide cast a spell, restoring Joe's memory of his intended foe and mentally steering him toward Liam. Joe regained his focus and resolved to attack Benfield. He commanded his fleet toward the planet, stating, "They will regret this. Once we finish resupplying, we will head to Benfield and obliterate everything." The guide agreed, instructing him to advance and crush them with his massive fleet. Let them suffer, then he vanished. We shift to Liam, who sat eating among his attendants, each fulfilling their role. Amagi asked, "Do you enjoy the food?" But he was indifferent to the taste. His appetite had vanished, thinking, "I have become the prince of evil." Noticing his distraction, Amagi prepared the food in his preferred style, yet he ignored it, unwilling to eat. He contemplated leaving the meal untouched, refusing to let guilt affect him. Amagi attempted to engage him while he was lost in thought, but he declined, knowing he preferred silence during meals. She asked, "Shall I bring you some women from the base?" He responded, "Do you think that's a good idea?" She replied, "Yes, it's fine." Then she added, "If you want, I can bring them to you right now." Liam replied, "I don't want any other woman." Amagi was unaware he already had one, so he felt no need for more. She said, "Very well, but I must clarify, I am not a woman. I am an artificial intelligence, and I cannot provide you with an heir." He questioned her again, and she replied, "I don't grasp the point you're making." He told her, "Good, because I am an artificial intelligence, lacking awareness of consent or refusal. What matters to me is your happiness." Liam felt a bond with the artificial intelligence, envisioning a future that could collapse if such power wasn't managed wisely. She asked, "Do you want me to bring you women?" He hesitated, as she had noticed he already had many. She then inquired, "Do you see these robots you possess? Are these your women?" He replied, "Stop asking these questions." She said, "But Brian will be furious if I don't bring elegant women to the place." Prime didn't share his perspective with her, as he couldn't comprehend the dreams of men and women who welcomed this situation as if it were simple. After that, Okada emerged, planning to impose heavy taxes and fill his pockets like the wicked prince, while in reality, he was drowning in debt just as he had in his previous life. Amagi inquired, "What are your goals, O wicked prince?" He replied, "Increase the taxes and make the populace suffer." She cautioned, "That will boost revenue, but it will ruin the land in the long run, which we advise against." However, we can assess the people's situation in Benfield and raise taxes if needed. He responded, I don't want complicated ideas. I simply wish to abuse my power and become a tyrant. That's all. Amagi paused, reminding him that such actions would prevent him from repaying his debts, recalling his past suffering at the hands of collectors. Then she asked, Are you not content with your current existence? She was ready to assist him in overcoming his challenges, and despite his debts, he was managing multiple lands, leaving his old family behind, mastering the flash technique, seizing pirate treasure, amassing wealth and power. Everything was going smoothly. Most importantly, Amagi was by his side, and that was enough to make him truly happy. Thus, he viewed this as the ideal moment to pursue his ambitions, reveling in his authority as the evil prince and celebrating his newfound fortune. Meanwhile, Amagi struggled to grasp his mindset, stating for the third time, My son, I am an AI, and understanding your thoughts is challenging, but I will help you with anything you wish. Next, we moved to her cleaning room, where the robots were still busy. One robot mentioned that she had attempted to change her hairstyle to distract Liam, but he noticed and pushed them all together, despite their similar appearances. Shirani expressed that she cherished this moment and had recorded it, but Archmi and Shiomi protested, wanting to replicate the same action. At that point, Amagi appeared and declared she would not permit it. Shirani hadn't considered that her actions might upset Liam, but Amagi warned her she would seize the video and show it to him, asking, Were you joking with her? You cannot leave such data behind and then walk away. Afterwards, she departed, and it seemed the AI began to evolve. Then we entered her office, where Ibrahim informed him of some dire news. The Krasna had declared war, and thousands of ships were amassing at the planet's borders. Liam noted that announcing war this way was relatively civilized for the Krasna, who typically didn't launch surprise attacks. Amagi, however, believed they were merely allowing time for fear to set in, as they had invaded the pirate treasure island. If this was revenge, they wouldn't stop at just a few casualties. Liam recognized that the pirate soul's leader was a man who relished in torturing and dismembering families. Amagi noted his immense power, which made him bold enough to declare war openly. Afterward, Bran decided to convene the judges and officials for a meeting. There, he revealed that the Krasna leader was named Joe, and he sought money, women, and men. One of them asked, Why does he want men? Bran replied, For war. Don't let your imagination wander, my friend. This remark ignited Liam's fury. He thought, This man is truly wicked. Bran was taken aback to see Liam preparing to leave for Benfield. But in reality, Liam was frustrated, feeling he wasn't as evil as he ought to be. One official proposed negotiating with the Krasna to resolve the issue peacefully. But Liam questioned, What about the strength of these pirates? What exactly is it? Brian answered, They have 30,000 ships. Liam then asked, And how many do we possess? Brian replied, Only 5,000. But the commander insisted that numbers aren't everything, and even if they surrendered, the Krasna wouldn't spare them. Another officer remarked that entering such a battle would guarantee defeat, a foolish act, especially since they were still waiting for support from the Empire. Liam began to ponder and noticed something odd. The treasure they had taken from Joe wasn't significant enough to provoke an attack with his entire army. Thus, there must be a deeper reason driving him. Amagi requested to speak, and when Liam granted her permission, she explained that she had analyzed the data from Joe's captured ships and simulated the battle. The results showed that the chance of victory was less than 3%. Bran was stunned, saying, If only the new weapon in Factory 7 had been completed. Emthal asked, What is this, a new weapon? Bran replied, Yes, it's called the Devastator. The moment Brian mentioned the weapon, time abruptly froze. Liam tried to reach out, but no one answered. He remembered that Nita, in his past life, had told him that time stoppages were intentional in 90% of cases. In that instant, the mentor showed up. He expressed a desire to borrow some of Liam's time, but Liam declined, citing a pressing issue that needed urgent attention. The mentor responded, I was the one who introduced the Krasna. He then inquired, Isn't Penfield drowning in financial troubles? Liam confirmed, Yes, these debts hinder my progress and block my ambitions. The mentor remarked, And that's exactly why I brought the Krasna to your attention. They hold vast riches. Defeat them, and all that treasure will be yours. Liam listened closely as the mentor elaborated that the Krasna's previous treasures were trivial. But if Joe triumphed, he would earn both glory and great wealth. The mentor added that everything had been orchestrated from the start, allowing Liam to appear as an underdog, making his eventual rise even more impressive. A wave of excitement washed over Liam, and he turned to the mentor asking, "Have you thought this through?" The mentor grinned and said, "Absolutely, this is the least you deserve." Then he disappeared. Liam, filled with excitement, expressed his gratitude to the mentor. His heart soared with joy at the upcoming challenge as time resumed its normal pace. Liam finally decided to confront the Krasna, with Joe leading them. However, the sector chief protested, stressing that the Krasna had mercenaries and Benfield lacked knights, which only increased Liam's anxiety. The chief stated firmly, "This is the final verdict. Let the battle commence." Brian reached out to Amagi, worried about the potential loss. Amagi calmed him, saying, "Relax, don't act like we've already lost." Liam made the right call by facing Joe. Amagi noted that Liam's chances of winning were merely 3%, but she considered that far better than surrendering to Joe. Based on Joe's past, if he won, he would obliterate the entire planet. So even 3% was significantly better than nothing. Brian grasped the logic but remained skeptical, thinking that if Liam had been born a century earlier, his odds might have improved. Liam, however, was brimming with confidence, convinced the mentor was by his side. His thoughts wandered to the treasures and spoils awaiting him after the conflict. From a distance, the mentor observed, a bitter resentment swelling within him. His negative feelings towards Liam's success intensified, wishing the Krasna would capture him, turning him into their toy, torturing him daily to relish the dark emotions Liam would emit. Meanwhile, Joe rallied his troops, declaring that anyone who brought Liam back alive would earn a double reward. His eagerness to make Liam his new toy was unmistakable. When his secretary inquired about Liam, he replied, "I don't have any affection for him. I merely seek a new source of entertainment." He openly shared his plans to torment Liam's people after the war, turning them into monsters. Liam's followers, who had initially doubted him, began to realize the seriousness of the situation. They discovered that Liam not only had a brilliant political mind, but also unmatched swordsmanship. Liam felt pleased upon hearing about the bounty on his head, thinking to himself, "The Krasna believe they are alone, but I will claim their riches." After 3 long, tedious days, nothing happened except for reports from the front lines, where the second-in-command stated that Liam's army was fatigued, while the sheer number of Krasna posed a serious threat. Liam had no option but to head straight to the battlefield. As he got ready to give his orders, he adjusted his communication device, prepared to mobilize. When contact was severed and Liam could no longer reach the fleet, a massive swarm of pirate ships suddenly appeared above his vessel, causing the fleet to scatter. Yet Liam stood firm, observing with icy detachment that their strategy was foolish. They were splitting their forces, sending only 500 ships to capture him. Imagi, however, was more astute. She realized that the true aim of the attack was to disrupt Liam's army formation and create an opening for assault, and that the 500 ships sent by Joe were merely a cheap, expendable sacrifice. One of Liam's subordinates informed him that those ships weren't pirates at all, but soldiers of the Empire, forced to fight under Joe's command after their previous defeat. This made sense. People always seek to survive. Yet Imagi understood that mercy would be futile. They could not be trusted again. Liam hesitated but ultimately took decisive action and wiped them out. When Joe learned of what had happened, he was shocked, but focused on another issue, the minor chaos that had disrupted Liam's fleet. He seized the moment and attacked with all his might. As Liam's fleet advanced, it pulled back slightly, maintaining the same distance, leading Joe to think that Liam was afraid, prompting him to order his ships to keep pursuing. Suddenly, the ships at the front line exploded, revealing the ambush. The entire area was laden with magically concealed mines. Joe was stunned to find himself ensnared by such an obvious trap. Confident in his numerical advantage, he commanded his troops to advance through the mines, fully aware he was sacrificing Imperial soldiers, not his true Krasna warriors. On the other side, Liam's troops were ready to shield his ship, willing to give their lives for him. Liam vehemently opposed this, declaring, "I won't let a single one of my men be harmed. I will obliterate every foe, and as long as I breathe, no ship will breach my planet." He chose to mount his combat robot, appointing Imagi as his second-in-command. Imagi quickly began strategizing at lightning speed, preparing to follow his orders, saying, "Good luck, my lord." He climbed into his robot, charging into battle while Imagi took control of the ship, issuing commands to launch Liam into the fray. She went to instruct the knights to ready the remaining ships for departure, but they were incredulous that a machine could lead them. They wondered, how can a mechanical entity guide us? We are humans, not mere toys. Imagi attempted to clarify that Liam was personally entering the battle, leaving nothing behind, and if they didn't support him, he would face death alone. She asserted, "My loyalty is to no one, neither to you nor to the people. My loyalty lies solely with him. I will do whatever it takes to safeguard him." Her words resonated with them, and they thought, how can a mere doll show more loyalty than we do? Thus, they vowed to protect Liam with their lives and swiftly readied themselves for battle. Imagi launched Liam's ship named Feed, and he departed with unwavering confidence, believing the battle was nearly won. He entered the space-time tunnel aiming to catch Joe off guard. However, as soon as he did, an alert signaled a breach, and the crew was commanded to prepare for combat. He charged into the heart of enemy vessels, drawing his weapons, a sword, a pistol, and a rifle. With unshakable confidence, he proclaimed, "I will not lose this battle. It is mine to win." He fought with all his might, while his soldiers guarded his rear. He understood the war would be tough, but would it truly unfold as he envisioned? Panic gripped Liam as he envisioned the terrifying possibility of Joe capturing him. The catastrophe was that he had exhausted all his ammunition. He hadn't prepared for such a scenario, naively thinking a few bullets would suffice against 30,000 ships, as if he understood nothing. He scrambled to think quickly and devise a plan. But suddenly, a powerful shot struck him, a clear indication that someone had aimed it at him with intent. Indeed, an enemy fighter had reached him. Yet, oddly, Liam felt no fear. Instead, he felt exhilaration, for amidst the chaos, a formidable warrior had stepped up to challenge him. He unsheathed his sword and confidently declared, "Come on, let's shake the world." But when the knight before him attacked, Liam was taken aback as the man exclaimed, "What is this? You are not weak at all. Your sword is heavy. Where did you learn this?" Liam puffed out his chest with pride, stating, "I learned the style of the blade of the Flash." The knight stared at him in confusion, asking, "What style is that? I've never heard of it in my life." Liam's anger flared as he shouted, "How can you not know it? My commander uses this style, and it is the greatest of all." Clearly, you are uninformed. But the knight remained unconvinced, asserting, "I've battled warriors from the strongest academies, and if this style were real, I would have heard of it." Irritated, Liam replied, "Then take this." With a single strike, he ended the knight's life. Suddenly, he realized it might have been wiser to leave him alive to spread tales of Liam's monstrous power. But time had passed. He resolved to leave some skilled fighters in a state between life and death to serve as his personal heralds. Nonetheless, the Akrasna remained skeptical of his might. They kept questioning, how can a noble yet impoverished fighter like him wield such power? Such a weapon and armor. Liam's fury ignited, and he unleashed the flash sword technique, relentlessly pressing his attack. Suddenly, he received a notification that part of his armor had sustained damage. He realized his robot could no longer endure his aggressive style, yet he told himself, "This is not the moment to falter. I must continue the fight." Another enemy then launched an attack on the ship he commanded. Liam began to retaliate, but this time he found himself losing multiple enemies at once, making it hard to maintain dominance alone. The fighters aboard the ship began to feel dread, saying to him, "We can no longer withstand this." Then came the shocking news. The probability of victory had plummeted from 3% to a mere 1%. Out of nowhere, just as he felt the encirclement, a new vessel descended from above. It was Christiana back on the battlefield, fiercer, wiser, and more relentless than ever. She joined forces with Liam while Imagi began coordinating with the 3rd and 7th armies for fresh weaponry. The battle entered its second phase, and the ferocity of the assault eased slightly. Christiana descended upon the foes like a vengeful spirit, intent on their total annihilation. She aided Liam, but he felt irked. He was the ultimate villain, destined to be the strongest, not to let someone else bask in the glory. He conjured the same rocket punch that had struck before, but this time he adjusted it for better control. With a much larger sword he summoned, he executed a swift strike that dramatically altered the battle's dynamics. The entire fleet stood in shock at the spectacle, and Christiana was equally astonished by the scene. Meanwhile, Joe quaked within his ship. The odds of victory had surged to 83%, and Liam was resolute in his quest to obliterate his foes. He recognized their numbers, but that didn't faze him. Their sheer quantity meant nothing to him. What thrilled him most was the prospect of claiming rewards for their heads. As he battled, Christiana admired him greatly, impressed by his prowess, realizing she had never encountered anyone like him. In truth, she relished every second. Gazing at him, she became lost in thought, reflecting on his image and all he had done for her, unable to envision her life without him. While she was deep in thought, a knight lunged at her, but she was Christiana, the queen of skirmishes. She unleashed her pent-up rage, fueled by the harm caused by Joe and his crew. She fought with such ferocity that her allies grew anxious. Known for her composure, her current state suggested she was on the brink of losing control unless they managed to calm her. Liam, however, had his own reasons. He recalled those who had once demanded debts from him in his past life, remembering their cruelty. He vowed that any villain who dared confront him would face no mercy. In the heat of battle, a Maggie alerted him to an approaching fleet of knights. He turned to face them, dispatching them with a single blow. The knights on his ship watched in disbelief, realizing he must always be their ally. For if he became their foe, destruction would be inevitable. This child's life had never been easy, gentlemen. His parents left him a destitute city, yet he transformed it into a thriving, powerful metropolis under his rule. Even now, he fought far from home to safeguard his people and prevent the knights from attacking his city. One thing was certain: even if the city fell, as long as Liam lived, he would restore it to its former glory, making its destruction nearly impossible. Amidst the conflict, he spotted a formation of ships resembling a central command. He tried to strike it, but a formidable shield stood in his way. He approached, only to find breaching it was futile. As soon as a Maggie spotted him, she quickly dispatched help to breach the shield. From her vessel, she commanded all their fleets to bombard the shield simultaneously to weaken it. They unleashed a blazing blue beam that continued until the shield finally crumbled. Once the barrier shattered, they began bombarding the ship responsible for maintaining it, creating a small opening. Liam slipped through as the others kept firing, while Joe's assistant reported that shield ship number 58 had been breached, instructing them to address it immediately. Joe commanded them to seal the gap quickly, unaware that the very person they sought to stop had already infiltrated and was advancing toward them. As Liam moved closer to the ship's core, Joe felt the pressure mounting. When his assistant warned him that the enemy was approaching at rocket-like speed, Joe glanced at the shield Liam wore and recognized it as the AVID model. He immediately commanded his knights to eliminate him, but his aide informed him that most knights had already fallen, and the few left could barely sustain the shield. Realizing the battle had turned against him, Joe chose to flee rather than risk becoming a slave, ordering the survivors to be abandoned. No one could fathom that a single commander had decimated the entire fleet, and Imagi announced that the survival rate for individual escapees was dismal, promising to report the events to the leadership. Joe demanded the ship's pilot to speed up, but it was futile, as Allied knights were en route. Allies, that was irrelevant. Survival was the priority. Unfortunately, he couldn't reach his ship and smashed part of it in frustration. Realizing escape was impossible, he ordered a small escape vessel to ensure the survival of those aboard. As Liam attempted to flee with the escape ship, he understood the true goal was the treasure. He told his knights that the moment had arrived to retrieve the treasure mentioned by their mentor. His knights cautioned him about the risks of entering the enemy ship, fearing Joe might blow it up, but he dismissed their concerns, reasoning that if Joe wanted to die, he wouldn't have tried to escape. Ignoring the warnings, they boarded the vessel, his knights shielding him and advising him to stay back from the front. Liam, undeterred, advanced and spotted hidden knights around the ship, dispatching those in his way. Out of nowhere, a squad of heavily armed fighters emerged, trying to shield him and commanding him to fall back. He stood firm, refusing to back down. These knights, once loyal to nobles, understood that nobles were just thieves, each pursuing their own interests. They decided to confront Liam but suddenly froze, as if their ability to move had been snatched away, while Liam walked through them without a second thought. His knights questioned him, asking what he was doing. He replied, "Don't chase them." They were taken aback and inquired why, to which he responded, "I took them out in an instant." Indeed, the knights lay dead. This was the impossible flash technique that marked Liam's journey. Every knight that stood in his way was eliminated without a moment's pause. Upon reaching the engine room of the pirate ship, he found not Joe, but his aide, begging for mercy. The aide claimed Joe had manipulated him, insisting he wasn't truly evil as he seemed. He argued that Joe had orchestrated everything himself and that sparing Liam would lead to the treasure's location. Liam regarded him as if the man's words were starting to sway him. However, when the man knelt, Liam's knights insisted he was Joe's aide and completely untrustworthy. Liam was aware of this, but he wanted to see how the story unfolded. When the man proposed to collaborate, Liam replied without hesitation, "No issue." He continued on his way, indifferent to who might side with the traitor. Meanwhile, Joe was still on the run, brainstorming ways to survive. Yet he realized that surrender would mean certain death. If he gave in, the guild would turn him in for the bounty, sealing his fate. Joe thought about offering his treasures to Liam in exchange for his life, but he quickly recognized it was a bad deal, as Liam would take the treasures anyway after his demise. In the meantime, he encountered the mentor, who sought a way to defeat Liam without Joe's help. The mentor bestowed upon Joe a supernatural ability, leaving him astonished by its sheer power. The mentor explained that this power would enable him to defeat Liam. Excited, Joe felt his body harden like stone, impervious to any weapon, confident he could face Liam, all while Liam roamed the ship searching for Joe and the treasures. Suddenly, he spotted the lucky dog, the same one that had been with him in his past life, loyal despite losing everything, a companion he had treasured. Liam pressed on, and a golden cube tumbled from Joe's aid. He snatched it up, exclaiming, "This gold is mine now," known for his obsession with wealth. Suddenly, he noticed something in a direction he hadn't checked before. At the corridor's end, he found a blocked passage, yet he sensed something important lay beyond. He commanded his knights to break down the wall, and upon entering, he confirmed his intuition, a pile of ancient artifacts. The knights proclaimed these artifacts would yield great riches, but Liam remained skeptical, fearing they might be fakes, just like the collectibles from his family home, which had all turned out to be replicas. Upon closer examination, he discovered a light and swift sword, instantly feeling a connection to it and deciding to take it. One of the knights advised him to handle it with care, as it was a precious relic, to which Liam replied, "What good is a sword that can't be wielded in battle?" Everything was going well until he received word that his knights were battling Joe's monstrous creature, which was slaughtering them. Despite using every weapon available, guns proved useless, and even bazookas had no effect. Joe shouted in fury, while the knights reached out to Liam, urging him not to plunge into the heart of the conflict. Yet, naturally, Liam dove straight into the chaos, trying to strike Joe from behind with his sword. However, the blade couldn't penetrate Joe's body, and Liam realized Joe had become as solid as steel. Unfazed, Liam switched to his new sword, wielding the katana and severing Joe's hand. Joe screamed in agony, but Liam struck again, lopping off the other hand. Even then, Joe refused to yield. He tried to attack Liam, but Liam dodged, leaping behind him and cutting off his legs, leaving Joe helpless on the ground. When the knights called out Liam's name, Joe was stunned to realize his opponent was the noble known throughout the world. He pleaded with Liam to spare him, offering treasures equal to the bounty on his head, but Liam refused, stating that all the treasures he had were his, leaving Joe with only the satisfaction of claiming the bounty. Humiliated, Joe attempted to strike Liam once more, but Liam swiftly severed his other leg. Realizing he had no way out, Joe begged for cooperation, claiming he had power that could be useful. Liam ignored everything else. His focus was solely on capturing Joe, prompting one knight to question his intentions. Liam affirmed his decision, stating the bounty would indeed serve a purpose. The knight warned that with criminals like Joe, the bounty could mean death or life. Given Joe's history, vengeance was justified. Liam made his way back to the ship, instructing the knights to look after the survivors. Imaji welcomed him with warmth, and Liam felt overwhelming happiness at their reunion. He pondered how his mentor must feel now, having been bested despite his strongest card. On Liam's home planet, cities thrived like blooming flowers, all dangers eliminated, and peace reigned. Even the tavern regulars who had reminisced about Liam's reign since he was 5 now expressed gratitude to the young man they might never meet again. Meanwhile, the wicked heir remained in his palace, where a merchant from Henry's company arrived with a fresh proposal. The merchant aimed to acquire the treasures Liam had seized from the Krasna after their defeat. Upon hearing the offer, Liam sought Imaji's counsel, and she suggested accepting it to alleviate a significant part of his family's debts. Liam was taken aback by the sheer scale of the debt. Even liquidating all the war spoils would barely make a dent in it. Chint drew Liam's attention to a medical device he had previously created for those experimented on by Joe. To gather data for a new device, Liam called for Christiana, who had returned in her true knightly form. She knelt and informed him that her treatment was complete, and she had officially left the clinic. Liam thanked her for resuming a normal human life. Before she could elaborate, Liam cut her off, stating he wasn't interested in chatting. He only needed her for the merchant's review of her treatment results. Perhaps Christiana took this too literally, as she adjusted her clothing to keep the merchant from discovering anything inappropriate. At that moment, Prime intervened, and Liam informed her that a letter had arrived from the Empire's capital, congratulating her on defeating Joe's gang and the Krasna. After a while, Liam journeyed with Amagi to the capital planet, where they settled. During this time, Liam encountered 4 unfamiliar faces, which angered one of them, who questioned how Liam could fail to recognize them. Amagi revealed that one of them was his father, and Liam finally recalled the man who had burdened him with debts since he was 5. His mother was also there, along with his grandfather and grandmother. She still held silent affection for him, feeling rivalry due to her attachment to Amagi, who had been his 5th birthday gift. She advised him to keep a distance from Amagi, as the Empire frowned upon intelligent domes. Liam's grandfather ordered him to dismiss Amagi, mocking him for still needing a governess, despite Amagi having matured. Amagi stepped back to spare Liam further humiliation, but he insisted she stay by his side, tired of his family's meddling. Finally, he asked what they wanted from him, and his father bluntly stated their only aim was for Liam to cover their expenses. His parents provided him with a monthly allowance, yet his mother was unhappy with this amount. Liam regained his assertive demeanor, promising a fixed monthly sum. Amagi smiled faintly, realizing those draining his resources weren't truly his family. But intruders, Liam unsheathed his sword, declaring that his wealth and lands were his alone, with no one else holding sway over them. He resolved to return later when he felt more composed. Then he turned to Amjaja and said sincerely, "You are my only family in this world." Meanwhile, the mentor grew increasingly frustrated and decided to use his power to manipulate Liam's family, attempting to brainwash them into requesting a change in the family head. If Liam resisted, the mentor planned to hire assassins to eliminate him. The mentor was sure this scheme would lead to Liam's downfall, but the Dog of Fortune, who had saved him countless times, was observing everything and might protect him once more. While the mentor and his family conversed, Amjaja passed through the corridor and spotted the dog emerging from one of the rooms. She approached the door to see what was happening, using her technological eye to scan the room and identify who was present. She noticed Cliff and the others. Instead of knocking, they stood eavesdropping on the conversation. She heard Cliff ask, "What will they say to the Emperor when they request the Count's replacement?" They intended to claim that Liam had an intelligent automaton and that he brought it to the palace as proof he was unworthy of the Count title. Amjaja remained silent, sorrowfully observing the gathering as Cliff and his relatives departed for the Empire to execute their scheme. However, the Emperor rejected their request, leaving them shocked as they had expected immediate compliance. They asked, "Why do you refuse?" The Emperor replied, "Liam is the Count every city needs. He pays his debts, enhances the lives of his people, safeguards his possessions, and recently triumphed over the Krasna under Joe, bringing him great honor and elevating the realm's prestige." They then questioned, "If we were in your position, would we approve of removing someone like Liam to restore the weak to the throne?" The Emperor responded honestly, "Owning an automaton or robot isn't a crime, and as long as no law prohibits it, there's nothing wrong. People might see it as an odd habit, but allowing Liam to remain Count benefits the Empire financially." They tried to entice him with promises. "If you restore us to the throne, we will pay the taxes, and you will have no debts." The Emperor stood firm, having witnessed the actions of past rulers. He dismissed their plea and ordered them out of the palace. Once they left, he declared, "It is finished." Later, Amjaja approached the Emperor after eavesdropping to ensure Liam's position was safe. She entered his office, expressing gratitude for rejecting Cliff's request. The Emperor probed deeper into the situation. She inquired if he found her proposal sensible. Amjaja had assured the Emperor that if he turned down those dogs' offer, she would use the funds from Joe's pirates to clear their debts. The Emperor acknowledged the funds were adequate, but questioned if she realized they could have been used differently, or if her proposal truly aligned with his interests. Amjaja remained adamant, claiming her offer was advantageous for everyone, as securing her role would lead to greater future profits. The emperor commented on the Duma's foolishness, stating that even without her offer, he wouldn't have allowed Cliff back on the throne, rendering her payment pointless. However, Amjaja was unconcerned about any personal gain from the proposal. To her, the result was irrelevant. She returned to Liam, who was dozing on her lap, complaining about the endless parties he had to endure, though he had enjoyed himself a bit this time. Amjaja felt glad he had found some joy in it, while she pondered the benefits of staying by his side and the risks he would face if she left. Ultimately, she resolved it was time to go. She told him she had been by his side for a long time, and he was nearing true adulthood. In this realm, adulthood was defined at 50 years, and he was now 40. From her viewpoint, she was right, though he felt the time had passed too quickly. She informed him it was time to part ways, prompting Liam to rise and put on his shoes, asking if she wanted a break, a moment for herself. But that wasn't her plan. She intended to leave for good. Liam couldn't believe it, insisting she couldn't abandon him, lamenting that everyone who entered his life eventually left, and she couldn't be the same. Amjaja reminded him of how the city treated the Duma, and how he had treated her like a person, not a machine. He had cared for her and valued her thoughts, and that had sufficed. Yet she couldn't destroy him, so she had to leave. Liam pleaded for her to stay, and she reminded him of the 3 rules he had set. The first rule, do not harm him, avoid anything that could endanger him. She explained that she had become a vulnerability in his life, a risk, and thus she needed to step back. He reminded her of the second rule, that she must follow all his commands, and he ordered her to stay, but she pointed out that this conflicted with the first rule, she couldn't remain. Realizing he couldn't sway her, Liam felt a profound sadness, and she too was heartbroken at the thought of leaving. He reminded her of the third rule, that she must prioritize her own safety. She assured him she had no issue with that, as she could defend herself from a distance, but Liam meant something else. He was referring to her feelings, asking if she wanted to leave him, despite not being human and lacking their emotions. She admitted that the thought of leaving him put immense pressure on her system, as if she might break. She also confessed she didn't want to go, a tear slipping down her cheek. It was a deeply emotional moment, but in the end he warned my friend, "Listen closely." Liam realized he had one last chance to make her stay, saying, "If you walk out that door, my lady, I will drink myself to death, gamble away all my wealth, and die broke in the streets, or the remaining pirates will come for revenge and kill me if that's what you want. Then go ahead, leave." When she understood that the danger he posed to himself was far greater than any threat she might bring by staying, she chose to remain. He held her close, reminding her they had always been together from the start. Regardless, they all returned home. As they disembarked from the ship, Liam began to contemplate his current life. He could only express gratitude to the mentor for this fulfilling life he was living. Meanwhile, the mentor felt a sharp pang in his heart from Liam's gratitude, repeatedly saying, "Enough, please stop thanking me." And thus, dear viewer, the story concludes, hoping you found it enjoyable. If you'd like a second season, let us know in the comments. Before you close the video, remember to hit the like button to support us, subscribe for more episodes, and activate the notification bell to catch all the new anime on the channel. Share your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you in the next episodes. Farewell.